We're going to talk to Mike for just a second because I feel like this would be good for both. It's a question directed at me, but I feel like it would be good for both of us. Mike, no pronouns given, calling in from Squeaky Cheese. I don't know, who once this is what it says on the thing. Does Forrest still say Christians think there are over 40,000 gods? Which one do you believe in? I don't think I've ever said that. Mike, you're on the line with Forrest and Justin. How are you doing today?
Good. Hello, gentlemen. Squeaky cheese. I will take that. That's better than scandalous crab and some other things I've heard. So I'll take it.
Yeah.
I was, Forrest, you said in the past, you'd be talking about things and you'll be like, hey, Christians believe in it's either 40,000 gods or 40,000 denominations. And then you'd pose,
Mike has fallen into a blender. Mike, if your phone fell asleep, we can't hear it, but it's real crunchy.
I'm sorry. I believe I have a bad connection. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
All right. Well, for as long as you can hear me, are you saying there's 40,000 gods or 40,000 denominations? And we're talking about just Christianity.
Yeah, a little bit both. So what I usually say is denominations. There are over 40,000 denominations of Christianity. And so I ask people, like, what are you bringing me here? Because as we just mentioned a moment ago, no matter what you want to say about the God of the Bible, the teachings of Jesus, whatever, I can just about promise you I can find some Christians out there that believe whatever crazy thing you say. And so if I'm talking about, if someone were to say, for example, like, I believe in the one true God, which is the God of the Bible, then I might bring up, like, there's 40,000 versions of him. Which one? You know what I mean? I'm not saying that you believe in 40,000 gods as a Christian. I'm saying there's 40,000 different flavors of this same God on offer. And the people who believe in 399,999 of them, 39,999 of them, think that you're wrong and that you're going to hell because of it. And I promise you think the same thing about them. And so, like, at the end of the day, that's where, that's where my hang up is when people want to say that, like, the God of the Bible is the one true, obvious, simple, cut and dry. I've read the Bible, therefore I know God. Okay, that doesn't narrow it down for me a lot, because you could be a biblical literalist. You could be somebody who's very much into interpretation. You could think that the Old Testament doesn't count because only the New Testament does. You could think that, Jesus changed the law. You could think that Jesus fulfilled the law, which is what he said he did. You could think that the crucifixion was more symbolic than real. You could think that it was actually 100% true. You could be a creationist who doesn't think that evolution happened because of the book of Genesis. You could be a theistic evolution believer who thinks that God drove evolution and guided along, and that the book of Genesis is more just poetry. You could think that the entire Old Testament and all the stories in it are just parables and metaphors and symbolism and all these things. You could believe that there actually were Hebrew slaves that actually built the pyramids and all the, like, a million different interpretations. And I have heard so many of them on this show. As I've said several times so far, I get comments every day from people saying you misrepresented Christianity because you said that the Bible is pro-slavery front to back. The entire book is pro-slavery, and it is. And they say, well, you misrepresented Christianity. It's not. And then I, on this show, have talked to multiple Christians calling in to defend slavery in the Bible and explain why God allowed for slavery and even mandated slavery and gave commands, like it dictated how slavery should be done because it's God, so it's a good thing. And I've talked to other people who say that that's misinterpreted, it's mistranslated, that it's the Old Testament, that it doesn't matter, blah, blah, blah. So, like, that's the whole thing, man, is that 40,000 denominations is I would say probably a conservative estimate. And it just goes to show that when you have a comfortable belief in redemption and the afterlife and all these things, you can twist it to say whatever the hell you want. And it works, because if it works for you and it's a special message that's made just with you in mind, and it just so happens to be that the entire universe was made just for you, it's real easy to twist that into whatever pretzel you need it to be.
You're very entertaining.
Thank you. I try to be.
I mean, the way you present it is the way you just said it. You're being true. Hey, my gosh, there's 40,000 different choices out there, and it's almost random whichever one you're believing in. But the core question is, if you're a Christian, you believe in Jesus rising from the dead, and then everything else is much lesser important. My grandmother had a church that split because they argued over the color of the carpet they wanted to put in there. So
immediately, sorry, Mike, I have talked to Christians on this show that disagree with you. So you can say they're not the right kind of Christian, and they would say the same thing about you, and we get nowhere.
Yeah, my understanding is a Christian is someone who believes they're a Christian. That's basically it. There are no defined rules about who gets to call themselves a Christian. But Mike, it sounds like you're a Christian. Is that a correct assumption?
Well, I'm starting to wonder. I don't know. I mean,
well, are you deconstructing?
Somebody believes in Christ rising from the dead. I'm sorry, what's that?
Are you ready to question your beliefs?
Actually, it's always up for grabs, and and it should be. And I know you guys pound on the Christians that are like, oh, you can't question it, and we got to indoctrinate children and all. Everybody should be skeptical at all times. That's healthy. I would throw that back at you to be skeptical, like you made your final call as far as being an atheist. You're sure you're done. You're sure. So,
no, we're always open to new evidence. That's how I became an atheist. I was a Christian for 20 years and I became an agnostic, and then I became an atheist because as the evidence comes in, I changed my opinion to the evidence. But let me ask you a question. Why are you inclined to believe in the Christian God? Is it just because you think Jesus resurrected?
Because of science.
Lord took him.
I didn't think here. I see a lot.
Try that again, Mike. I'm sorry. We got a little chop up.
Okay. Because of science, I thought, there's a lot of design going on, a lot of engineering going on. And I was like, this just didn't happen. And then crap. I didn't want to face this. Go ahead.
Sorry. Are you suggesting that when you look out, you see something that appears to be designed? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, a lot of things. It wasn't just one thing. It was like a lot.
Fair enough.
As far as
okay,
it didn't.
Is God a good designer?
I would say, I'd say he's pretty good. We're in a fallen world, if that's where you're going. But I'd say he's a pretty darn good designer. Yeah.
Right. That's where we're going to go. And I don't think you're going to like when we get there, because I think you probably feel like you have an answer in your head that works, but it's not going to work. So let me ask you a question. If the earth is like designed well, finely tuned, you might even say, would we expect to find an earth that inflicts unnecessary suffering on its inhabitants? Like we'll say natural disasters, right? Is there a reason for natural disasters to exist?
Do you understand that we're living in a cursed world, and that's going to happen if we don't?
I do. Just follow along. Mike, just follow along.
I understand that, and I understand why that's a way worse argument than you think it is. But I want to hear what Justin has to say first.
Yeah, don't get ahead of it. Okay, so you're suggesting that the natural disasters they are or are not necessary for something?
Man, I have no idea why natural disasters happen. None.
Right. They seem to be an unnecessary component of the planet, right? Now, in your worldview, in order to explain the natural disasters, you have to say, well, God cursed the earth because of the sin of Adam and Eve. But to me, that's a non sequitur. Just because Adam and Eve sinned doesn't mean that God needs to punish humanity forever through needless suffering caused by natural disasters. Could God have punished Adam and Eve without punishing all of humanity at the same time?
Man, I want to hear your answer, Mike, but you got some more crunching going on. Try one more time.
Okay. God is, he does generational punishments, which I don't like, where a father.
I agree. I don't like
son and the grandchildren.
Yeah, I don't like it either. Yeah. Exodus 34:7. Yeah, it says that the Lord visits the iniquity of the father on the children and the children's children into the third and the fourth generation. Now, we agree that that's not actually an appropriate form of justice. The problem is that the Bible does think that it's an appropriate form of justice. So why then are you not okay with punishing like children and grandchildren with their parents' crime if in fact it is God's nature to do so? Why is it bad when you do it but good when God does it?
I'm not here. I said I don't understand it, so I'm not judging God. So also,
You should.
benefits are passed down to generations too. Which, yeah, I mean, I don't like
Well,
it. No.
So my suggestion is this: our worldview accounts very well for natural disasters and chaos, right? Because we're just a product of a chaotic universe, right? Your worldview can't account for natural disasters. You just have to say, well, I don't know. But the minute that you start looking around and you say, well, it appears that there's a God because of this fine tuning, and then we point to things that don't appear to be finely tuned, you don't actually have a good answer for this existence of non-fine tuning, which means your worldview is lacking something. It's not completely fully formed. The God hypothesis doesn't answer the question.
No, I don't think it does. At least not the way I want it to be. It's not the way I want it. No.
Right. So there's probably something else. There might be something else that is drawing you to Christianity, because I don't think fine tuning is a great argument for it. Did you grow up in the faith?
Well, there is fine tuning. No.
I don't think there is.
You guys asked me this before, and then I say I was Lutheran, and then I was Methodist, and then I was on my own, and I was free of that. So
I design machines for a living, right? So if my machine executes even one person, it is a bad design. I lose my job. That machine gets turned into a different machine. It gets repurposed. So that is a bad design if one person gets killed. So if God designs the earth that just randomly executes 100,000 people a year, that is a bad design. That is not a finely tuned design. Not to mention that even the things that you think are a direct result of the curse, like the painful childbirths and things like that, that's just vicious. The idea that God is going to make birthing so problematic that upwards of 40% of infants born in the ancient world were going to die before they reached 6 months old, and that as high as 2 and 3% of women would die giving childbirth. That's just not a bad design. That's just vicious.
Yeah, he said he would increase the pain of childbirth, not the death rate, and then because
but
he also said that women will be subservient to men. So like that's the punishment, is that now
you guys keep going over that one. What about the one where it says the women will desire the men?
That sounds
verse
like a
16.
worse. That sounds like a worse curse than the dying in childbirth. Have you met a man? They're insane. So like honestly, like that's I have a completely different line of questioning.
Tell them what it is. Tell them what it really means, Justin.
Tell them what is.
It says women will desire the men.
Yeah, in verse 16 it says that your desire will be for your husband, but he will rule over you.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's the subservience.
There's a natural conflict.
So it's
not a
not
natural
just
conflict.
But then when they do, then they're always kind of bucking you.
It's not a natural desire. It's just the way God said he was going to make the system work. Like you can't appeal to nature because God created nature. Everything that nature does only does it because God decided that it would do it. Same thing with God's design for relationships. For example, do you think that, for example, if her husband dies, should my sister be forced to marry the next of kin within his family?
May I ask? I don't know. I don't know. But that you just opened
you don't know
the question, Justin, that I had for you. If you have a minute, you go through and you quote a lot of Old Testament.
Oh my God, with the clicking. I don't know if it's your fault or not, Mike. If you're typing while you're talking, it is insane for us. Or I don't know if it's just a bad connection or what.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
A little better? Okay. Mm-hmm. I'll just try not to move my head. I got headphones on and they're apparently lousy. Anyway, as far as the Old Testament goes, there's all these rules. And then Justin, you're a good scholar and you'll bring them up and you'll say, on your wedding night, if there isn't blood on the mattress, then there's a problem. She's not virgin. But don't you know, Justin, didn't they teach you like what ones carry over from the Old Testament to now? Like even the the 10 Commandments. You know this, or Forrest probably won't, but
I know that you're wrong. That's what I know. I know that the New Testament, Jesus and the Old Testament can't actually agree. So Jesus didn't say a single word about the law being done away with. Not a single word. In fact, he said, whoever teaches it and obeys it would be called great in the kingdom of heaven. And whoever teaches others to not follow the law would be called least in the kingdom of heaven. He says that not a single jot or tittle is going to pass away until heaven and earth pass away. So Jesus at no point said the law was going away. That being said, if Jesus is Yahweh, then you've got an even bigger problem, because Yahweh says, do you believe that when Jesus came and brought in the new era, it brought about the circumcision of the heart and not of the flesh? Is that what you believe?
I don't even know what verse you're referring to. Are you Old Testament?
There's a bunch of verses. Jeremiah talks about it. Ezekiel chapter 44 talks about it. This idea that during the Messianic age, God is going to circumcise the heart of his followers and not just the flesh. That's the New Testament era. Are you aware of this? Have you not heard Paul talk about this?
No, I'm not familiar with it. Go ahead.
Okay, so the New Testament picks up on this idea from Jeremiah and Ezekiel about the circumcision of the heart being superior to the circumcision of the flesh. But when we actually read about this in the Old Testament, it doesn't say anything about the law going away. It says, moreover, the Lord your God will circumcise your heart and the heart of your descendants, so that you will love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul. And in order that you may live, the Lord your God will put all of these curses on your enemy and your adversaries who took advantage of you. Then you shall again obey the Lord in observing all of these commandments that I am commanding you. This is being spoken of through Moses. Moses is saying all these commandments that I'm giving you now in Deuteronomy, the day he spoke all the laws. He says, when God does circumcise your heart, he's going to make sure that the purpose of this is to make you to follow my laws. Everything in the Old Testament of the New Covenant era, of the New Testament era, what you would call it, included the laws of Moses. It wasn't until you get to Paul in the New Testament that you have this idea that the law needed to go away with. Paul was a heretic. Paul didn't read his Old Testament.
That's the first time I've heard Paul's a heretic. I got to process that. Sure. I mean, okay. I mean, what's your point then? That Paul is incorrect and we shouldn't listen to Paul? Is that it?
Well, I'm saying
you either listen to Jesus or Paul. Those are your choices. Because Jesus said, I come not to change the law, but to fulfill it.
You're never going to find an argument to get you out of the Old Testament. Also, I also don't think it matters, by the way, right? Because if we're looking at the laws of the Old Testament, even if I was going to say, I'll grant you that it was a temporary law code, it's still a horrific law code. If I said, listen, Forrest, for the next 24 hours, you're allowed to go stab anyone who you want to stab, and then after 24 hours, you're not allowed to do it anymore. That's still horrific. Yeah. It doesn't matter how temporary it was. It's horrific.
You're talking about, I want to say the Canaanites and their confrontations with those people. Is that what you're referring to?
No, I'm not referring to that. I'm just saying that just because you think the law code is temporary, which it's clearly not in the Old Testament and according to Jesus, but even if you believe that it was still horrific for the roughly 1,200 years that it existed. So just calling it temporary doesn't mean anything to me. It was horrific for any time period.
God commanded slavery. It wasn't okay just because they did it a little bit. That's really the long and short of it, man.
Yeah, I don't want to get in the slavery thing with you. I'm not. What my point was that.
Do you think that Jesus is God?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, there you go.
So when God did stuff in the Old Testament, was that Jesus?
It was God in God's form. There's Jesus in Jesus' form. There's the Holy Spirit in the Holy Spirit form.
Sure. And Jesus
I understand.
But they're all food. And so like
Jesus and the Father are one. They're in one accord in your religion.
No, may I? I mean, you tell me you've heard this. It's like water can be a solid, liquid, or gas. That's the Holy Spirit.
Oh, this is a bad analogy. You're just committing a heresy now. You're about to commit the heresy of partial. Sorry, you're about to commit a heresy. Okay, in the early church, they had this debate already. They already said that God is in parts. This is not in view of the Trinity. This is a heresy. So is this the one you want to go down?
It's three forms of the same thing. That's how we understand it. We don't understand it, but that's maybe the easiest way is
So modalism, which is another heresy.
I can't get past it, heresy or not, whether or not what Mike is saying is in line with the teachings of the church. Mike, if you think that these are three forms of the same thing and they're ultimately all connected in some way, at the end of the day, no amount of this tap dance is going to get you away from Justin's point, which is that the same God who says in the Bible that he is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow, never changes, is eternal, is permanent, never changes his mind, all these things. The same God that is the same guy as Jesus and the Holy Spirit. They're all part of the same whatever. This is the guy who commanded slavery. This is the guy who commanded genocide. This is the guy who allowed and actually relies on incest. This is the guy who committed rape. This is the same guy the whole time. It's the same guy. So like, there's no amount of this word salad that you can give us to dance around the fact that this God is unchanging, eternal, same in the Old Testament as the New Testament, same in the beginning as the end, the Alpha and the Omega. It's the same fucking guy doing the same evil shit. So you can either follow along with what Justin was giving you, where I thought was a masterclass in explaining how the New Testament doesn't magically make the Old Testament not matter anymore, or you could ignore that, in which case you're still stuck with the moral responsibility that bad things are bad, even if they're just a little bit for a little while bad. They're still bad. There's no small amount of slavery that makes slavery okay, right? They still have that baggage. And even if you ignore that, you still are stuck with the fact that you, as a Trinitarian, have to accept that these are three parts of the same person. Therefore, the same God you worship and are trying to defend is responsible for all of the atrocities that you are trying like hell to get away from, because you know they're indefensible. There is no way out of this that can be logical for you.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're saying because your headphones are dog shit. Is there a better way for you to talk to us? It's insane listening to this.
Yeah. I apologize.
Well, let me.
I just got a bad.
It's okay.
And I've been hearing that.
Mike, let me ask you a question real quick.
Go ahead.
Let me tell you a story that doesn't involve any laws. Want me to tell you a Bible story? In 2 Samuel 21, there's an interesting situation. Do you remember King Saul? You know who he was?
Vaguely, yes.
He was a bad guy. Okay. Now, the Israelites were supposed to protect the Gibeonites because in Joshua chapter 9, they made a pact that since the Gibeonites were good to them, they wouldn't kill them when they entered into the land. Now, Saul went back on that and started killing some of the Gibeonites, and this was very upsetting to God. So after Saul had already died, God decided it was time to rectify the situation. And we find this story told in 2 Samuel 21. It says, "Now therefore there was famine in the days of David for 3 years. And year after year, David inquired of the Lord. And the Lord said, there is blood guilt on Saul and on his house because he put the Gibeonites to death." Now, before we read anything else, listen to what's actually just happened here. Don't gloss over this. God sent a famine on a nation of people for a period of 3 years. David inquired of Yahweh for 3 years, year after year. "Lord, why is there famine?" God said, "I ain't going to answer that. Sorry, no one's home. Call later." So he finally, after 3 years, answers the phone and says, "Oh, because the guy before you did something bad," right? So why is God okay making all of the Israelites suffer, men, women, children, and infants via famine for a crime that they didn't commit, a crime that a previous king who's already dead committed? Why is that okay?
I think we talked about that at the beginning. I don't know why it's generational. I don't know why you get punished for what other people do. I don't know. I don't know.
Right. Now, the resolution to the problem makes it even worse, because the resolution of the problem gets said like this: let 7 of his sons be handed over to us, and we will impale them on rods before the Lord at Gibeon on the mountain of the Lord. And the king said, I will hand them over. So they do. They hand over 7 random members of Saul's household. They get impaled before the Lord. And then later on in the paragraph in verse 14, after they kill these 7 members of Saul's household, people who didn't have anything to do with Saul, and it says they did as the king commanded, and after that God heeded the supplications for the land. So this means God is totally okay with blood vengeance, so much so that he's okay with innocent people suffering just to guarantee that blood vengeance gets carried out. Do you think blood vengeance is a good principle to live by?
I'm sorry, I don't have any easy answers for you on that. Yeah, I mean, God's serious. He's letting you know he's serious, and some innocents get in the way. I just awful. Yeah.
I can't let you get away with that, Mike. Like you said you don't like it, but what Justin just asked you is like, is this a good thing? And your response is, well, God's a tough guy. He's so tough that he'll hurt babies. And that's just what has to happen. Like, honestly, seriously, that's actually where you're going to leave it? You're not going to think about this even a little bit?
Well, I don't know squat about this situation and what was really going on. I'm getting a little headline here, and I don't have God's overview of what's going on. So I guess I'm not going to play God on this one.
Well, when famines happen, do people suffer?
I don't think you have to play God to say that it is wholly unjustifiably immoral to hurt children because of things their grandparents did. I don't think that's a thing that requires playing God or really any stretch of like cognition in any real way. If you're a decent fucking human being, you should be able to say there is absolutely no justification for hurting children because their great grandparents did something bad. There is nothing that could be done. Even if I agreed, even if it's the worst thing in the world, I don't think Hitler's great grandchildren should be punished. I don't think that they should be hurt. I don't care what it is. There's no justification, no excuse for that. Do you agree with me, Mike, that there is no reason to hurt innocent children because of the sins of their family?
I'm not going to agree with you. I don't like it, but it goes both ways. If the parents do something good, it carries on generationally. It shows how serious it is.
We're not talking about.
You have to know that is not a that is not a proper equivalence. If I work real hard and save up some money and buy a nice house and choose to hand it down to my children, that is wholly, completely, not even remotely the same as if I go rob a liquor store and then 7 generations down the line, somebody who has the misfortune of sharing my last name but has never actually heard of me has to go to prison. That is completely different and makes absolutely no sense trying to connect those dots. So like, again, you're pretending like this is a solid argument, and I am doing you the courtesy of assuming that you're bullshitting me, because otherwise you're bullshitting yourself, and that's fucking sad. You know that's not right. So I'm going to ask you again. Is there ever any justification for hurting an innocent child because of the perceived crimes of their great grandparents?
Well, why would there be any justification to hurt a child because of even one of the parents?
I'm going to ask you again.
And that's what happened.
And I'm going to hope that you get a yes or a no answer. Is there ever a time when it is appropriate or justifiable to hurt a child because of the actions of their grandparents?
Keep in mind the answer is no.
Well, out of the human race.
The answer is no.
Yes. Yeah. I don't think people should not do that. Yes.
Good. Do you think God should do that?
I'm going to grant him his, playing God. We like to play God a lot, like abortions and all that. If he made us,
that's fucking lazy.
Right.
So might makes
that's
right
lazy,
is what
true.
You're saying.
That's what it is.
So might makes right is what you're saying. God is so big and so strong and so powerful that he, as the most moral, intelligent, creative thing in the universe, is allowed to do terrible, immoral, evil things because he's just so big and strong.
Yeah, but Forrest, how is he going to show everyone how strong he is if he doesn't kill all the babies? He said so in Exodus chapter 10 and 11.
Say, that's literally the point of Exodus.
He has to show you how strong he is by killing all those people. You'll never know otherwise.
Well, God's kind of why is he not killing everybody if he wants to show how strong he is? We're under a character.
Shit, he is.
He did. That's in Genesis. He did. He killed everybody except for 8 people on a fucking boat because I guess no other boats in the world worked. So he's done that. He is committed mass genocide, drowning every person in the world, including the pregnant mothers, including the babies, all the abortions that happened because these women were drowned while they were pregnant because God regretted making people, which is what it says in the fucking book. God regrets making us. So he drowned everyone except for one man and his family, and then propagated the world through incest again. And also all the other animals, everything that has the breath in its nostrils is what it said. Fucking gophers and giraffes and gorillas, not just all in the letter G. So many more. All these creatures, all punished to drown because God is so upset that he made the horrible mistake of making us. Yeah, what a fucking toddler that you worship.
No. There's 2 things you're missing here. One is that if you're God and you made this, you can do anything you want. You've got creative rights. Like you make a song.
Okay, so objective morals don't exist? You don't believe in objective morals? Hold on. Do you believe in objective morals?
Hold on. My second point is when we die, we're like, oh my gosh, we can't, they're gone. When God kills somebody or they die, they just move on. They don't we're not disappearing. We're eternal according to the Bible.
Okay, so our suffering here is meaningless because we go to heaven? Is that what you're saying?
It's not meaningless. It's temporary.
Okay, so Jesus' suffering was just temporary and meaningless then. It's really inconsequential. Because he's God. He's just gonna go back to heaven. He's fine. Yep. He didn't suffer. He had a long nap.
On a mission, you know that, Justin. Forrest probably.
No, he didn't. He was a liar and a fraud. That's what I know. So, but you're also missing the point, which is that you're assuming that any of these people are going to heaven. Literally, the whole point behind killing them was to send them to hell because they weren't good, right? So all those people ended up in hell, not heaven. But I think that is kind of a sidetrack. The question I want to ask is the morality that you're laying out then is that anything God does is by definition good. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, or whether you have standard or
so divine command theory.
Yeah.
So if God tells you to do something, is it always the right thing to do the thing?
There's no way for you and I to know 100% if God's telling.
Just a yes or no question. If God said, Mike, I want you to do something, is the correct answer always to do the thing God tells you?
Well, the correct answer is how do I know I'm talking to God? That's the correct answer.
I'm asking you.
It would be
in the
super
analogy,
cool, Mike, if you could just answer a straight fucking question without dodging around. Just be serious for a second and answer the question that Justin's asking you.
Okay, so Mike, I'll give you the additional parameter. God is speaking to you. You know it's God, and he says, Mike, I want you to do something. Is the right answer always to do the thing?
Yes.
Okay, so if God said, Mike, I want you to go to the orphanage, collect all the babies, put them through a meat grinder and make baby paste, and then just line the walls with a roller of baby paste in your bedroom so you have to look at them day and night, would that be the right thing to do?
I don't see that in the Bible anywhere, but
I didn't say it was in the Bible, Mike. I'm giving you a hypothetical situation. If God told you to do it, would the right thing be to do it?
There's no way that I could know God was telling me and it wasn't a demon.
Mike, it's not a question. I already gave you the hypothetical. In the hypothetical, you know it's God talking to you. You know what he says. And he told you to paint your walls with baby paste. Is it the right thing to do to paint your damn walls with the baby paste?
You can't do it.
Man, if it goes against everything in the Bible, I guess I'd have a hard time following that. I would.
It doesn't matter if it doesn't matter if it goes against anything in the Bible. It's a hypothetical question about if God asks you to do something, because even in the Bible, he asks people to do things they're not supposed to do. He asks Abraham to sacrifice his own son. He asks David to number the people of Israel, even though that was supposedly a sin. So God asks people to do stuff they're not supposed to do all the time. So if God told you to make baby paste,
I'm sorry. I just want to point out he didn't make the baby paste, but he did command the slaughtering of children with I believe it was the Amalekites, where he told Saul, go kill all of these people, including their children and infants. He specifically says, put the infants to the sword, kill those babies. He actually says it. And Saul doesn't kill enough people and gets kicked out of his job as king and gets tormented by demons for the rest of his life. And then he makes David king, and David goes out and kills enough people to make God happy. So like, yeah, painting the walls with baby goo definitely isn't in the Bible, but murdering babies because God told you to do it is absolutely in the Bible, Mike. And if you want to be serious for a second, instead of dodging again and again and again, you could just answer what Justin's telling you. If God told you to do something morally reprehensible like killing babies, would you do it?
If there was a war going on and I knew it was God.
Nobody.
Just answer. It's
Mike,
a yes or no question.
Nobody said anything about a war. You keep adding variables that are not a part of the hypothetical. So God shows up to you. He can't be honest. They can't be.
Mike, you keep fucking creating all of these hypotheticals and all these scenarios and all these dodges and all this shit to try to either justify killing a bunch of babies or explain why God wouldn't do that or just avoid confronting the actual question. It's a cowardly move. Just be honest with yourself and us for one fucking second. No, it isn't. It's serious. If you believe in divine command theory, that anything God commands is necessarily the definition of morality, then the next logical step is that if God commands something that you think is immoral, it actually is moral and it doesn't matter. That's why the Bible makes sense. Otherwise, the Bible doesn't make sense. So please answer Justin's question. Just get a spine for a minute and just answer Justin's question seriously. If God told you to kill babies and you know it's God and it's happening right in this very moment, there's not a war and all this other shit, just think for a second. If God told you to kill babies, would you do it?
No.
Okay. We don't even have to go that far, Mike. I can just ask you, even if you wouldn't do it, would it be the right thing to do it?
I question the source. Come on, guys. This is hypothetical.
No.
It's not your God. Jesus of fucking Christland, dude. Just act serious for a minute. Follow the train of thought. You said everything God commands is good, period. End of story. You didn't have any addendums or couching or if and unless and except and as long as, none of that. God said it, it's good. What if God said to kill babies? I mean, I don't think you would do such a thing. What if there's a war going on? It's not in the Bible. Just be serious for a second. Try. God says things are good, so they're good. If God said killing babies is good, is it good? That's the fucking gambit. That's the whole thing.
Right. And keep in mind, Mike, this is just a test of
time of war.
Mike, just pay attention. All we're doing is testing the logical limit of divine command theory. That's all we're doing. We're not asking you what you feel about it. We're not asking you how likely it is. All we're asking you is to test the logical limit of your theory. So if God commands you to do something, then the right thing to do is to always follow through with the command. So if God told you to make the baby paste, would the right thing be to make the baby paste?
He can't do it. He can't do it. We can't fucking hear you, but we know what you said. We have no idea what you actually said, but I guarantee, Mike, you just said, well, I mean, God wouldn't do such a thing. God never, that's not in the Bible. Well, I mean, I guess if it's a wartime, it's a different, like, I guarantee you did not just say yes or no.
And keep in mind, it's a one-word answer. You just need to have an
answer.
Yes or no. That's it. He
hung up. He hung up. That's, man, the dude just could not fucking own up to his own religion. It's just not that hard. If you don't like it, then don't believe the shit. Change the thing. There's the whole reason Mike called in, just to refresh everybody's memory. The beginning of the call was grumping about the fact that I point out that there's 40,000 different denominations of Christianity, and that everybody, all of these different Christians, interpret the same Bible in so many different ways. Do that, Mike. If you don't like divine command theory because of the logical conclusions of divine command theory, which again are not a dishonest tactic, it's in the book that God commands shit like this. And you're going to justify it. Just go to a different church, Mike. Just change your mind. Just be one of the other 39,999 versions of your fucking religion. I'm sure one of them is more palatable to you.